Before the crisis of 2025, Boeing's Everett factory was more than a building. It was a city of flight, humming with energy and ambition. The world's largest building by volume, it echoed with riveting guns, cranes, and jet engines, a true symphony of industry. Thousands of workers built the 777X and 787 Dreamliner jets, assembling millions of parts sourced globally. Generations of families worked side by side, passing down skills and pride. The factory floor was a melting pot, united by the mission to connect the world. Every plane was a promise of safety and reliability, crafted with extreme precision. These workers were the unsung heroes of global travel, building the wings of the world. The Everett factory was the beating heart of a connected planet. June 22, 2025 began like any other day at Everett. The sun crept over the horizon, casting a golden glow across the sprawling Boeing factory, its massive hangars and runways coming to life in the gentle morning light. Early shift workers arrived before sunrise, some rubbing sleep from their eyes, others already laughing with colleagues. They grabbed steaming cups of coffee, exchanged stories from the weekend, and made their way to their stations, ready to tackle another busy day. The assembly lines buzzed with energy, production was booming, driven by huge Chinese airline contracts that kept the factory humming around the clock. The sense of purpose was almost tangible. For veteran mechanic David Chen, building a 777X for Air China was more than just a job, it was a point of pride. Each rivet and panel felt like a bridge between his American home and his Chinese heritage, a personal connection to both worlds. The mood on the floor was confident and upbeat. Teams focused on meeting tight deadlines and maintaining the highest quality standards. Conversations were about engineering challenges and weekend plans, not geopolitics or world affairs. The global supply chain seemed to work like clockwork. Parts arrived from Japan, Italy, and China, each shipment a testament to international cooperation and trust. Every crate and container was a small miracle of logistics. Everyone assumed business would always find a way, that economic ties were unbreakable. Deals were struck with a handshake and a nod, and the future felt secure. The factory was an island of stability in a complex, unpredictable world. Inside these walls, routine and order reigned, even as uncertainty brewed beyond. No one imagined that belief was about to be shattered. The sense of security was so strong, it seemed unbreakable. Until the first sign of trouble appeared. The calm of that morning was the deep breath before the plunge, a fleeting moment of peace before everything changed. At 10 a.m., something felt off. The usual rhythm of the factory, clattering tools, humming machines, shouted instructions, seemed to falter. Workers exchanged uneasy glances, sensing a shift in the air, as if the building itself was holding its breath. Senior managers, visibly anxious, gathered supervisors and halted production. The abruptness of the order sent a ripple of uncertainty through the workforce as lines of communication buzzed with speculation. The factory's constant noise faded into an unnatural silence. The sudden quiet was jarring, amplifying every footstep and whispered conversation. It was as if time itself had paused. An emotional announcement followed. All work must stop for an emergency update. Faces turned toward the loudspeakers, searching for answers, hearts pounding with dread. Confusion spread. Was it a drill? An accident? Rumors swirled, each more alarming than the last, as workers tried to piece together what could possibly warrant such a dramatic halt. The truth was worse. The US had imposed an immediate embargo on aviation exports to China, and Beijing retaliated by canceling all Boeing orders. The news hit like a thunderclap, echoing through the cavernous plant. Workers froze, stunned, jobs, futures, and purpose thrown into doubt. The sense of security they'd built over years vanished in an instant, replaced by fear and disbelief. David Chen stared at the half-finished landing gear, his bridge between cultures suddenly destroyed. For him and many others, the factory was more than a job. It was a connection to the world. Whispers turned to anxious questions. What now? Are we laid off? Will the company survive? The uncertainty was suffocating as rumors of layoffs and shutdowns spread like wildfire. The factory, once a symbol of global cooperation, was stopped by a political decision thousands of miles away. International flags hung limp, reminders of a partnership now in jeopardy. The giant had been brought to its knees. The assembly lines, once alive with purpose, now stood eerily still, their silence a testament to the fragility of global industry. The silence was the sound of a global crisis arriving on their doorstep, a moment that would change lives, and the world, forever. The crisis was years in the making, fueled by rising US-China tensions. By 2025, Washington's new hardline stance targeted China over security, trade, and technology. The U.S. embargo banned advanced aviation exports to Chinese-linked companies, aiming to cripple China's aerospace ambitions. Beijing struck back, canceling all Boeing contracts, worth tens of billions. The tit-for-tat escalation spiraled, each side feeling justified. These weren't abstract policies, they had immediate, devastating consequences. The Boeing shutdown was the most visible result, dismantling decades of partnership overnight. Jets meant to connect the world became symbols of division. The conflict was fought not with armies but with embargoes and cancelled orders. The world's economic ties unraveled in real time. The Everett shutdown was just the start. Boeing furloughed thousands, paychecks vanished overnight. Seattle's local economy, dependent on Boeing, suffered instantly. Suppliers, restaurants, and shops lost business. The shock rippled through Boeing's 12,000 suppliers nationwide, triggering layoffs and halted contracts. Boeing's crisis became everyone's crisis. In China, airlines' growth plans collapsed, routes were canceled, and ticket prices soared. International travel became scarce and expensive. Global markets panicked, Boeing's stock plummeted, retirement funds shrank, and airline stocks tumbled. Investors feared other industries could be next. The free flow of goods and capital, once taken for granted, now seemed fragile. The shutdown of one factory shook the confidence of the entire world. The ripple effects were immediate and global. The Boeing crisis exposed the fragility of globalization. For decades, efficiency drove companies to build complex international supply chains. Products like the 787 were global creations, with parts from dozens of countries. But this system relied on stability and cooperation, assumptions shattered overnight. The shutdown showed how a single political decision could break the entire mechanism. Efficiency and fragility, it turned out, were two sides of the same coin. With no plan B, businesses and governments were forced to rethink globalization. The focus shifted from pure efficiency to resilience. Shorter, more secure supply chains, even at higher costs. The world began to fracture into regional blocks, as interdependence became a double-edged sword. The crisis was a wake-up call. Global prosperity and vulnerability are deeply intertwined. Equal sign. The Boeing crisis left the world at a crossroads, forcing nations, industries, and individuals to confront difficult questions about the future of global cooperation. The shockwaves rippled far beyond aviation, shaking the foundations of trust that had underpinned decades of international progress. One path leads to renewed cooperation. US and Chinese leaders, shaken by the crisis, return to the table and rebuild trust. They recognize that their economies and indeed their futures are deeply intertwined. Through difficult negotiations and honest dialogue, they begin to repair the fractures, setting aside old grievances for the sake of shared prosperity. Trade resumes, the Everett factory reopens, and global connections are restored, though more cautiously. New safeguards are put in place and international standards are strengthened to prevent future crises. Workers return to their jobs and families regain hope as the world rediscovers the value of collaboration. The other path is darker. The trade war deepens, dividing the world into rival blocs. Countries retreat behind new barriers, and suspicion grows between former partners. The spirit of competition overshadows the need for cooperation. Supply chains split, costs rise, innovation slows, and suspicion replaces collaboration. Factories sit idle, projects stall, and the world's ability to solve shared problems is diminished. The world becomes poorer and more dangerous, with conflict always looming. Tensions simmer at borders, and the threat of escalation hangs over every disagreement. The crisis reveals a fundamental truth. Our biggest challenges are global, not national. Whether it's climate change, pandemics, or economic shocks, no country can face them alone. Only by working together can we hope to build a safer, more prosperous world. Nationalism and protectionism may feel satisfying in the short term, but they leave everyone worse off in the end. Isolation breeds vulnerability, not strength. The silent Everett factory stands as both a warning and a symbol of what's possible when we work together. It reminds us that progress is fragile, but also that recovery is within reach if we choose unity over division. The future of our connected world depends on the lessons we choose to learn and the actions we take in moments of crisis. Our decisions now will echo for generations. The choice is ours, and the stakes could not be higher. In the end, the path we take will define not just our own destinies but the fate of the entire planet.